Okay, so we've been talking about how, verse 17, may I close the door to the lower forms of life for all beings. This is the prayer of the Bodhisattva when closing a door. And so we've been talking about the 4 ways of gathering followers in order to teach them the Dharma. And so being generous, speaking pleasantly, having a pleasant personality and teaching them, and then also encouraging them and guiding them along the path. And then the last one is to act in accordance with what you teach. That one might be the most difficult. Yeah? It's hard, isn't it? Because it's one thing to know the Dharma intellectually and even to be able to explain it, and it's another thing to tame one's own mind. Isn't it? So I think this is where keeping precepts is really, really valuable, because if we begin this training process by keeping precepts, because precepts really deal with our physical and verbal behavior, so they get us to work on our mind, but physical and verbal behavior are the ones that most directly affect others, either positively or negatively. Yeah, how we act towards them, it's right there. We can have a negative thought, but if we're in our room, at least that doesn't directly affect somebody else. But the physical and verbal does, and so it's really important to manage those. And so those are the actions that are covered by our pratimoksha vows. So the pratimoksha vows include the monastic vows and the 5 lay precepts, and then the 8 vows for one day. And so those are very, very precious vows, because if we train in them, it gets us to look at, how we're acting and what we're saying. And those are the 2 ways in which we really influence others most. Yeah, so if we have those different sets of precepts and keep them well, then it restrains us. Or put it this way, we learn how to restrain ourselves from doing gross damage to others. And if you see the various scandals in religious traditions, and even in, in business places, in politics, all of them stem around, the 7 non-virtues of body and speech, which of course come from the 3 non-virtues of mind. But it's the 7 of body and speech that directly affect other people. So if you look either, there was a period where there were a lot of scandals in the Buddhist community. The Catholic Church has been rocked by scandals. Politics and business is like all over the place. Government, is all over the place in terms of scandals. And so here we really see the value of having the precepts and training our life according to the precepts, because that at least helps us to act somewhat according to what we're teaching. Because to keep the precepts, then we have to work on the mind. Okay, so it all kind of comes together. So even if we happen to be teaching, very complicated topics or difficult topics, even like bodhicitta, or emptiness, which are preliminary to Tantra, but, even if we're teaching those, if we don't, we may not have direct, deep realizations of them, but at least if we're living within the precepts, we're not going to do very gross, harmful things that make other people lose trust in the Dharma and lose trust in us. Yeah? So, it comes down to living an ethical life, and that's, to put living an ethical life in slang, it means getting our act together. Or another synonym is stop being a jerk. Yeah, so that's very basic Dharma practice, but it's very profound, because it really has a strong impact on how we are in the world and how we affect others. And so to act according to what we teach, keeping ethical conduct is really important.